Hi YouTube, I'm back again with Chapter 3. I hope everyone who's listened so far continues listening and continues enjoying. Not much else to say at this point, so let's go. Chapter the 3rd, Setting In. Vinyl felt really groggy and could hardly move. That was one hell of a party last night. She strained to even open her eyes, but when she did, a bright light blared in front of her.
"Tucker," she moaned. "Turn out that light, damn it."
She pawed at the air as if hoping for the light to magically go away.
"Who's Tucker?"
called out a static-laden voice. Vinyl's eyes shot open, and she found herself lying on a metal table in the middle of a dark room. The only light in the room was shining on her, and she could barely make out the shape of a heavily tinted window opposite her.
"Where am I?"
she questioned, quickly looking around the room.
"You're contained inside of interrogation chamber E4,
the voice called out again.
"Interrogation,"
Vinyl said, the events in the alley lost from her mind.
You were the witness to an EBI assassination, Miss Vinyl Scratch, is it?"
Yeah, that's me,"
Vinyl replied, looking around the room, attempting to find the source of the voice.
"You were apprehended approximately 2 blocks down Main Street, fleeing from the site of the assassination, correct?"
"Assassination? You mean murder!" Vinyl shouted angrily.
"No, Miss Scratch. Miss Brake was the target of an EBI assassination, not a murder,"
the voice said coolly. "Assassination? Murder? It's all the same! She's still dead!" Vinyl barked, growing more angry.
"But you, Miss Scratch, are alive and well, and should be thanking Celestia that you are. You've been brought here to be trained. We're going to mold you into an assassin, and you are going to work for the EBI."
"Assassin? I don't want to! I refuse! Let me out!" Vinyl said, getting up from the table and moving to the window. "Do you hear me? Let me out!" she screamed, banging on the window.
"You refuse?"
A laugh blared from the hidden speakers.
"Oh, please, you don't have a choice!"
At that moment, a door on the opposite side of the room swung open, and 3 stallions shuffled in.
"Resistance is futile, Miss Scratch,"
said the voice. The sound of a microphone being shut off echoed around the room, and the 3 stallions moved in on Vinyl. "No! Stay away!" Vinyl screeched as 2 of the stallions restrained her. "Help! Somebody help me!" she hollered as a needle punctured her neck.
"Help me,"
she mumbled, her vision fading, and consciousness slipping away. Vinyl shot awake, sitting up and breathing heavily. She tried to open her mouth to say something, but she couldn't seem to speak. She was sitting in a small room. It reminded her of her apartment back in Ponyville. There was a bed, a dresser, and a small closet. A large mirror was hung on the wall to her left, and her bags were sitting on the floor with a small note attached. Vinyl got up and almost fell over. Her legs felt like they had 2-ton weights tied to them. She leaned down and picked up the bag with her mouth and set it on the bed, reading the note. "Vinyl, I managed to retrieve your belongings from the Ponylicious bus before you were extracted. I figured it'd be really rude if I had you leave all your things behind. Sincerely, Scolder. P.S. I look forward to training you. Maybe I can help you feel more at home." She opened her bag, and the picture of Ruby stared back at her. She smiled and removed the picture, setting it on the dresser. The entire year she toured with Big Break, she never took anything from the bag she had packed. She continued to stare at the picture. She was supposed to go to Appaloosa after she was done in Manhattan, and was looking forward to seeing Ruby again. A knock on her door snapped her out of her thoughts, and Scolder stepped in.
"Oh good, you're awake."
Vinyl opened her mouth to say hello, but she still couldn't speak. Scolder chuckled.
"Yeah, that happens. Just drink something and it'll be fine," he said.
Vinyl smiled. Maybe Scolder wasn't such a cold-blooded, heartless murderer. Scolder eyed the note.
"I see they brought your things in. Good."
He smiled.
"Now we've got an appointment at the gun range in an hour," he began. "And I need you to be able to talk, so head down to the cafeteria and get something to drink. I'll see you in an hour."
Scolder left, and Vinyl sat in silence. Gun range. She'd never touched a gun, let alone used one. She sighed and stood up, shakily making her way to the door. Something to eat sounded good. As she walked out of the room, she noticed a plaque on the door that read, Test Subject A14, Scratch, Vinyl. Test subject, she thought, her ears drooping. Is that all she was to them? A slab of meat they could jab with needles? She shook her head and looked for something to guide her to the cafeteria. Vinyl met with Skolder in the gun range about 20 minutes later. Sorry, Skolder, I lose track of time, Vinyl apologized, pawing at the ground.
It's all right, Vinyl. As long as you're actually showing up for training, I couldn't be happier,
Skolder said, gently patting Vinyl on the head and smiling. Vinyl smiled back and looked toward the range. On a table sat a few large rifles, and one of those weird gloves she had seen Skolder and Mully wearing back in the alley. Skolder saw her staring at it.
This miracle of modern technology, my dear,
he said, approaching the table and setting his hoof on top of the device,
is a Fayed.
Fayed? Vinyl said, cocking her head sideways.
Yes, Fayed. Firearm accuracy enhancing device.
He slid his hoof into the slot on the end of the Fayed and it made a locking sound.
It attaches to your hoof and allows you to maneuver these appendages.
As he said appendages, 5 claw-like things on the end of the Fayed flexed and moved around,
allowing you to hold a firearm in your hoof. It helps a lot. Hold a gun in one hand and a knife or other close-range weapon in your mouth.
He bent down and gripped a knife in his mouth.
Like this,
he mumbled through clenched teeth. He clicked a button on the Fayed with his nose, and it unlocked and slid onto the table. Dropping the knife, he approached Vinyl.
Today I'm going to teach you how to operate a Fayed and fire a firearm.
He gestured for Vinyl to approach the table with his hoof. Vinyl walked toward the table cautiously.
Now all you have to do is put your hoof into the back of the Fayed, and it'll do the rest.
Vinyl looked to Skolder, and he gave a reassuring smile.
Go on.
Vinyl slid her hoof into the back of the Fayed, and it quickly clamped down on her hoof with a loud locking noise. Ah! She screeched, startled by the clamping and nearly falling over. Skolder laughed, and Vinyl's cheeks flushed red. She stood back up and attempted to move the claws on the end. Nothing happened. She focused her mind directly on the claws and concentrated with all her might. Nothing happened. She wriggled her hoof around inside the Fayed, and nothing happened.
Try pushing your hoof in more,
Skolder suggested. Vinyl pushed her hoof in deeper, and suddenly a flurry of small wires attached themselves to her hoof, and gave a slight shock. Ouch! She cried.
You'll get used to it. Now try to move them, Skolder said.
Try to move them? How in the hell was she going to do that? She tried wriggling her hoof again, but to no avail. She gave an exasperated sigh. Skolder, is this really necessary? Can't I just hold the guns in my mouth like every other normal pony? She said, turning to Skolder.
No,
he said dryly. There's no way I'm going to be able to work this damn thing, she said, throwing her arms into the air. 1. One of the claws straightened out. You aren't helping very much. 2. Another one straightened out. This thing makes no sense whatsoever. 3. A third rose up. I just can't do it! She stared at Skolder for a minute. He had a smirk on his face. What? She said, looking to the Fayed. And then she gasped. I did it! Look, I did it! She cheered excitedly, jumping around. Skolder smiled.
Great job. Now come on. Let's get you a rifle,
Skolder said, walking toward the table full of weapons. A month later, Skolder and Vinyl were sitting at the firing range. Vinyl had a Thompson M1928A1 submachine gun clasped in her Fayed, and she was firing away, a pair of noise-canceling earmuffs secured on her ears. She stopped firing and dropped the empty clip to the ground. The barrel of the Thompson began to smoke, and Vinyl grinned as her target swung closer. Out of a 30-bullet clip, 20 were headshots, 3 were misses, and the final 7 were on the flank where the cutie mark would be. She'd gotten very good at shooting lately and was damn proud of it. Skolder cheered, and Vinyl turned, smiled, and waved at him. In the past month, Skolder had become less of a teacher and more of a father figure to her. They did virtually everything a father and daughter would do together. When she needed help, she could always count on Scolder to be there for her. She wished she could say the same for Mully, who avoided Vinyl for a week, and then went on some secret mission to Hoofington. Tomorrow, Vinyl would be receiving her first mission, and she was feeling really excited. She popped another clip of ammo into her Thompson and began to fire on a freshly placed target. Perhaps DJing wasn't her best asset. Scolder approached her and put his hoof on her shoulder. The Thompson stopped firing, and she looked at him, nodding. She set the rifle down and took off her earmuffs. It was time for her to learn just what kind of secret agent shit she had gotten herself into. Okay, 3 down, 8 more to go, and I'm really enjoying this so far. I hope everyone else feels the same. Maybe I exaggerated a little on the chapter lengths for the whole story, but I do remember them getting longer somewhere down the line. But for now, I just want to say thanks again for listening, and I appreciate any feedback as usual. Later, every pony.